to Mortgage Approval Center. His brokerage deals with 15 mortgage lenders, including major banks, credit unions, and exclusive lending institutions. Mark works with the borrowers to find them the best rate and most suitable mortgage product. Let Mark work for you. To learn more, call Mark for your free consultation at 705-254-9677.
Good evening, everyone. We're here for the sports talk this week. Jamie Henderson joining us again from the Sioux Junior Greyhounds U18, Calem Mangone, and Cooper Foster, and always Jim and Tony. How's everybody tonight?
Good.
Good.
Good, Jay. Thanks for having us.
Well, Tony, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for joining us. We had a chance to talk to Coach Henderson a couple of weeks back, and Coach Henderson, I just want you, we had your red and white games that we talked about. And the one thing, and I'm going to ask the boys this after too, but, we announced Sioux Sports called the last couple of games. And the one thing that me and Phil Bambaco talked a lot about was the level of intensity and how it picked up in the second game and how, you can almost see that there was a lot more jump and a lot more spunk. And what you said really struck a chord was, with COVID and everything going on right now, you can have one of two attitudes about this. You can say, "Oh, we're playing a red and white game," or it's like, "Guys, we get to play a red and white game." And I really felt like that second attitude really came through. And I just wanted your overall thoughts on what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, thanks for having us on tonight, guys. It's nice to be back and with a couple of the guys here, and obviously two of the kind of leaders on our team, and they've kind of kept us on the straight and narrow all year, at practice and in games. But yeah, you could definitely see. I mean, first of all, they had an over 2-month break with that first game, so there was a lot of rust. And as I watched the video back, and a lot of the guys watched it as well, and we went over some things. There was some rust in conditioning when you're playing COVID hockey every second shift for even though the games are shorter, you're going to be tired. So. The opportunity to kind of get one under their belt, so to speak, and then, play again. You can, as you said, the physicality, even though the games aren't physical, there's definitely some more intensity to it. And, part of that is, they're competitive guys and a lot of guys playing for something, right? And so they knew a lot of OHL folks and other leagues were watching, and that's just the way it is. I mean, like we talked about, every opportunity they get, they understand it's a big opportunity, it's a big deal, and credit to them. We had a good week of practice, and there's still lots of things we'd like to clean up with the games, but I thought it was really competitive and a close game right to the end.
I felt like the intensity and the jump in the second game was twofold compared to the first game. Just your overall thoughts on it. It seemed like the boys put in a little bit extra work, in between games, which was nice to see, right? It was nice to see that improvement. I know you talked about rust. Just talk about any improvements that you saw between the game one and game two.
Yeah, well, I think for, we met with the D and the forwards before the game. Like I said before, I think on the show is, we try to treat it like a regular game with meetings beforehand and that. And I thought, and the boys would probably reiterate this because they had to play against them all night. I thought our team read back end. We had our veterans back there, Kobe Fellinger, Adam Barone, Michael Beltrano, Creel Solomon. I thought they kind of set the tone, and I'm sure the boys would vouch for this because they had to play against them all night. I thought they played their best games, and I watched the game over. I heard you guys referring to Beltrano quite a bit during the broadcast, and I thought he was really strong. And yeah, I mean they. I think the older guys definitely led the way for us, and you could see. We practiced. I think it was 4 or 5 times leading up to that game. Throughout the week. So for sure, there was. You get your legs back under you after such a big break, and I know that a lot of the guys were working out and we were doing stuff during the lockdown, but nothing replicates, COVID hockey in general, and then. Certainly backyard outdoor rinks don't do it. So it's a different animal, and you definitely saw a lot more intensity.
Jamie, what goes into it's a little bit of a different process. What goes into the making of the teams and how you divide them up and divvy them up? You just mentioned you had a group of veteran D on one team. How do you go about that process?
Well, Jim, obviously we want to make it as we want to have two things. We want to make it as competitive as possible, and ultimately fair for both sides. So we had Cooper and Calem and Lincoln Moore arguably our top three forwards, three of our top forwards for sure on one line. So kind of to combat that and to really challenge them, we made sure that the other side had Steven Pishnitsky's line, and then he would, they would have a veteran back end pair as well. And, Steven really, I kind of gave him a challenge, and right in front of the group, to kind of look at this line and try to shut them down as much as possible, to challenge them, right? Like they need to be challenged. There's no point in loading up our 11 best players and they could play the next 11. They're not going to get anything out of that. And the guys understand that they don't want it easy either. You know what I mean? That's not going to do anything for them, because the guys watching are pretty smart guys. They can see if it's not a competitive situation. So, I just try to match up, whether if one team maybe has a little bit stronger forward unit, then definitely the other team's going to have maybe the goalie that's playing a little bit better at the time, and definitely the stronger back end. But, I think I said last time, and I don't know if the boys would know for sure, but I think we've had a tie game, 3 or 4 1-goal games. Like, all the games have been really close here. So it's been, it's been a good opportunity for them to compete.
Jamie, I got one more for you, then let Bono go ahead, and we'll start with the boys there. So what's next for you guys? More red and white? Is there anything movement on any of the possible games elsewhere? Or
well, we thought since we spoke last, obviously Sudbury is now in shutdown mode there. So, I think there'll be some news in the next few days about Sudbury, but it doesn't look good, obviously, from there being in the red zone or whatever. I don't know what zone it is, but it's the not good zone, whatever it is. Unfortunately for us, I don't know. I get mixed up with all these colors, but I just know what's good and what's not good. And right now it's not good there. And so we're just, to be honest with you, Jim, and the attitude right from the start, the only way we can do it is we have practice tomorrow, right? Like, we're just lucky. The boys in Sudbury have nothing tomorrow. We're going to practice tomorrow. We got a great practice planned already that Cole and I did today. We're going to get better tomorrow. That's all we can look forward to. We're going to maybe add some red and white games this week. I'm just kind of waiting. We just want to get the kids in a little bit of a rhythm. So I'm just kind of waiting for some confirmation on that. So maybe we'll have something to announce, even maybe on the show. But, we'll just look to get better every opportunity we get, as long as we can. And that's all we can do, really.
Yeah. So basically just one day at a time.
Yeah, that's, you know what, if you start looking too far ahead, or what's this or what that, like, I'm trying to plan things ahead, and I get frustrated myself, because with COVID, there is no playbook on this. There's no planning. It's literally like, let's plan tomorrow. Let's get as good as we can tomorrow, or let's get better tomorrow. And because if we start thinking 2 weeks, a month down the road, we're just going to drive ourselves nuts. Like, and that lockdown really, for lack of a better, it sucked, nobody wants that again. So we're just trying to follow the protocols, do the right things, and just have the right attitude that, hey, we're lucky to be on the ice, because there are lots of places that, I know you guys had Maya on there, for example, Hedrick a few weeks ago. Her team's not on the ice. It's all the guys, these guys' friends in Sudbury, they're not on the ice anymore. You know what I mean? So it's just, we're fortunate where we are. Would we like it to be different? Would we like to be able to play games? Absolutely. But there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
All right. So Calem and Cooper, we're going to get to you guys here. So we're going to cover a wide variety of topics here. We want to talk about hockey. We want to talk about COVID, unfortunately. And, we've focused a lot on kind of the effect COVID has had on you guys and kind of your group of friends, and how you guys kind of are dealing with it. So we'll talk about all that. But let's start with you, Calem. Coming into this weekend, coming into the first red and white game, a lot of people didn't really know what to expect, or, we didn't really know what the competition level would be, and if you guys would come out slow or anything like that. You really established yourself in that first game. And, I think a lot of people thought you were the best player on the ice. Can you just talk a little bit about what it was like to actually get to play a game, at this time of year?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to go out there and just compete. And with my line mates, I had different line mates I think that game. But yeah, it was fun. I just wanted to push the pace. It's definitely different with no face-offs, no power play, like no penalty kills. So it's a lot different. But I mean, it's still hockey. So
if someone was to ask you, what's the best part of your game, in your opinion? What do you do the best?
Well, I'm very skilled. Like I like to score goals off the rush. I feel like I can see the ice very well. I'm a creative player. Like I like to get my opponent's D off guard, like on their heels. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, you were the human highlight reel in that first game. It was really fun to watch. Any prospects for where your career is going to go going forward? You know, any idea what you're going to do next year yet? Have you made it that far? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about that, but like juniors in my mind, like OHL camps, like etc. But I'm just trying to take it day by day right now and just keep getting better.
Oh, that's awesome. Cooper, we'll go over to you. So,
Yeah.
Cooper, obviously this is your draft year. It's a really big year for you. You know, I think a lot of people have a lot of sympathy for a guy in your shoes, right? Coming in and you know, again, draft year, ton of potential, and then you don't really get a chance to show off what you can do. Has this year been frustrating for you, and how have you dealt with it?
I mean, this year with COVID times, like the teams in Southern Ontario aren't playing. So here we get a lot of attention. So I think it's actually not bad for us playing here since we get all the attention. It's been not bad. Practicing 5 times a week and having games every weekend too is not bad. So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Obviously, it's a big year for you. How has playing for Coach Henderson kind of helped you in your career and prepare you for the hockey at the next level?
Well, I mean, it's great playing for Hendo. He's like just even the interviews with Jack Materi hosted with us is showing what we have to do for the next level. He's pushed us every day in practice for the games, pushing us, seeing where we can get, just to see where we can get for the next level. Definitely good playing for Hendo this year.
That's good. Jim?
Okay, Calem, next year comes around. If you have to leave the Sioux to play, are you ready to do that? I know your family. I know you have a real good family, and you guys are close. So, are you willing to do that if that's what where hockey takes you?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's in my mind. I'm not scared to move away because like here's just the Sioux Thunderbirds, nothing really else. So yeah, it's definitely in my mind to move away.
Yeah, you kind of got to keep all the doors open, right? And then
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You said, take it day by day for now, and then see what happens next year. Now, Cooper,
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to ask you because you know I'm a football guy.
Yeah.
You when you played football were really, really good when you were young. Do you miss football at all?
Yeah, I mean, I miss playing it. Like, I think I quit like 3 years ago now, but growing up playing it was always fun. I think I played running back. Always got a lot of touchdowns every game.
Yeah. You were
I think you played for me when you were a real little kid.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We didn't win it. We didn't win a game that year, I don't think, but
Oh, no.
it was because of the coach.
because of coaching. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Now, Calem, when it comes to last year was your draft year, and then we're saying this next year you're looking hopefully OHL somewhere major junior.
Yeah.
Now, do you think there's more pressure on you because you weren't drafted last year to like you say to find a team and make the team,
Yeah.
or is it a little bit more that you just have to prove to them that you belong there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to prove myself that like they should have picked me, but like anyway, but I'm just trying to get better. But yeah.
And it's something, Calem, I'm going to ask Cooper a little bit different, but what do you say to a player and now being like say you're 16 but going on 17? What do you say to a player that you've been through it that if they're not drafted, that I'm saying you still have a chance, and I'm going to get coaches to also talk about this, but what do you say to a player? It's not the end of the road, right?
Oh no, not for sure. Not at all. Like that's not even in my mind anymore. Like the OHL draft, I'm already over that. So like if you don't get drafted, it's not a big deal. Like don't worry about it. Like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So
And Cooper, do you find there's a little bit more pressure right now because of this is your draft year?
Oh, no. Larry's helped me all the way through, taking it day by day, saying, like, even last year I didn't get drafted. He told me he's never going to quit, take days off. And like Hendo said, you choose your own path, too. Like, OHL is not the only path you can take. And I think taking your time and seeing where you go is definitely the right way.
Now, out of the three, can I ask you, what does Moral mean when it says Larry?
yeah, that's my nickname. Yeah.
And how did we get that?
Oh, it was like my first year rep. it just stuck to me, like the Viotto family, like Drew Viotto was on my team, and his dad just started saying it, and it just stuck all the way out through. So, yeah.
And Coach, just to relate back to the question I asked Calem and Cooper, is it more pressure, do you think, on Calem or on Cooper this year because of, like, say, not being drafted compared to being this draft year?
I don't really look at it like as pressure, Jay. I mean, it's probably easy for me to say that because I'm not in their shoes, but I just look at it as, it's just a process, right? And I mean, I'm not trying to be cliche or anything, but it's the longer I've been involved in this. I mean, if you get wrapped up in the pressures and like looking at these social media lists and all this kind of stuff, it does you no good. I'm going to tell you a quick story about Larry. And now that everybody knows his name's Larry, I'm going to call him Larry because that's what I'm used to calling him. But, I called every 04 we had last year. I think we had 8 or 9. And we obviously had, Connor and Mace and Dev who were drafted. But I think we had 5 or 6 that weren't. And so I felt it was important to call them. And because, no matter how, I knew some guys weren't going to get picked, but there was a couple, Larry being one of them, Adam being another, that, I was really hoping for. I thought they really deserved it. And I thought they probably missed out because we didn't have an OHL Cup. I mean, they both would have been on that team and they would have been able to get seen had COVID not arrived. But at the end of the day, whether you're a 5th rounder or a 12th rounder or a 14th rounder or a 2nd rounder, it does not matter when you get to camp. If you don't get better, you might be in the league for a year and you'll be out. And I would never mention names in like a forum like this, but there's tons of guys who make the league 1 year and then they're out, or they make it 2 years and then they're out. This is about hockey players at 15 years old, 16 years old, getting better so that at 20, at 25, it's something I talk about all the time. That's when you want to be a player. If you peak at 14, 13, 14, 15 years old, whatever dreams you have are going to fall by the wayside. And so, Calem, I called him. He was out of breath. I'll never forget this. I've said this story to lots of OHL teams, actually, because it's just shows the character that he has. And he was out of breath, like literally 20 minutes after the draft. He was down working out and shooting pucks. And he said something to me that'll stick with me forever. And he says, "Don't worry, Hendo, like nothing's going to stop me." And it was like, he's an undersized player, but he doesn't play small. He doesn't play with any fear. And some team is going to take a chance on him, whether it's a junior A team, next year. And Calem knows, because we talk a lot. I've talked to Calem probably about as much as I talk to my wife, that this is a long process. This is about what can he be at 20 years old, because he wants to be a hockey player. His dream isn't just to be, I shouldn't be telling you this, he should be, but his dream isn't just to be an OHL player. His dream is to be a hockey player. And so if you have that mentality of, I want to be a hockey player, well, it's just a process of getting better all the time. And that's where I think Coop's kind of been able to kind of figure that out through some of the guys. It's like he's going through they have the OHL interviews and this and that, and he's a really sought after prospect. And when you get in that position, now they nitpick at you. They will literally pick your life apart. They'll pick your game apart to see, is he a first rounder? Is he a second rounder? Is he a third rounder? And that all brings a different type of pressure. But if you let it control you, it does you no good, because ultimately all you can control is being a great teammate, coming to work, to practice every single day to get better. And when you do get those opportunities, some days you're going to play great, some days you won't. And no player is going to make or break their career at 15 years old. And so, they both have really, really bright futures. They're both smart players. And, we're really excited to see 2 different ages, 2 different paths. And that's the great thing about hockey is, like Coop said, it's going to be totally different for both of them. But the cool thing is someday they might end up in the same league. And that's where you want to be. You want to be a hockey player.
So, Jamie, I got a question for you, and I'm not trying to be controversial, and I'm not trying to stir the pot here. So if you want to stir away from this, by all means, just say so. But I've talked to I have a few connections in the OHL, a few scouts that I've talked to over the last few years. And, they talk about the Sioux not having a minor midget program anymore, and that not necessarily that it hurts the kids, but that they don't get to go to these tournaments and get some of the exposure that they would get, in another way. and maybe a player like Calem doesn't get seen because he doesn't get to go to these tournaments, doesn't have that opportunity. What's your opinion on that, or do you have one, or
Oh, yeah.
what do you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're not going to get the politically correct answer from me very often. You don't have to worry about that. But we've been on both sides of things now, right?
Yeah.
Like we've had the minor midgets, now we have the U18. To me, the benefits of the U18 outweigh the negatives of not having, and I'll tell you why. So, if Cooper Foster, for example, I'll use him as an example because he's on the call. If Cooper Foster was with his own age group this year, he would not be pushed like he is in practice every single day. So last year we had 100 practices, 100 times. Caleb Mangone, Mason Chitteroni, Connor Toms, Devin Morrow, Michael Beltrano, all these guys got to play against older players. They got to play against the Steven Pishnitskys and guys like that every day in practice. I seen it the other way. Our first year, especially with a Justin Morrow, Cooper Smith, we didn't have the depth. So the practices weren't as challenging. And that was one of the things as a staff we really struggled with, was how do we replicate, we were playing like the North Bay that first year was lights out. They had like 6 guys drafted. Well, our practices are one way, and then we get to in a game, it's like, holy crap, like this is way more intense than our practice. We couldn't do anything to replicate that because we didn't have the depth. So the fact that Cooper gets to practice, like I could put him right up against Adam Barone in practice. If we want to go 2-on-2, we can go, 2-on-2 down low, like a really, really solid drill, really game, game-like. Well, I can put him up against a player who he is not going to outmatch every single day. Is he going to win his? Yeah, of course he's going to win his fair share. So that's the positive of it. You mentioned the negative side where you don't get seen. I don't think there's any secrets that there's not as much exposure in the U18 as there is. But ultimately, because we carry so many U16 players like the 2005s, every single team knows that the Sioux doesn't have minor midgets. So they're not going to, like, the Sioux can develop hockey players. Like, so they know, and they have to come. That's where I think I have to, and I am, like, really, push the promotion on the teams. But they recognize that we have 15-year-old players, and they're going to watch the Sioux. They're not going to miss out on the next Cooper Foster or the next Jack Mateer or the next Connor Toms or Mason Chitteroni. I mean, there's too much at stake, right? So where it hurts maybe guys at the end, and it's tough. You want to hear your name. We would have loved to have had 6 or 7 kids drafted last year, but ultimately, like I said, it is about getting better. So while I acknowledge that not hearing your name is tough, it's way better to get an NCAA scholarship at 19 or 20 or to play in the OHL at 18 than it is to hear your name in the 13th or 14th round and never see the light of day in the OHL. So, that's the way I would kind of look. There's definitely I think the positives outweigh. Ultimately, we just didn't have enough players. We were taking house league players to fill our roster. The bottom line, the last line, and our final D pair had house league players on it. And Cooper Foster needs to go against legit, solid AAA hockey players to get better so he can be ready for the next level. And, the guys might have a different opinion, and that's fine. But ultimately, I think the day-to-day of, and it's also nice for the younger kids to be around the older kids to, like Cooper said, I sat them right beside each other in the dressing room this year for, obviously for a reason. And I thought he could really help Cooper out. And as he mentioned, it has. So there's a benefit of that too, of being around older, more mature guys like Pishnitsky or, 90% students doing it both ways. You know what I mean? With the hockey and the school. So there's those benefits as well.
So what do you say? This is the last thing I'll ask about this, then we'll kind of move on. But what do you say to the people who have the argument of, well, say you have a kid like Cooper Foster and he's playing now against 18-year-olds and, maybe his game he won't stand out like he would playing against kids his own age. And it's really tough to get a read on him because of that. Do you feel like kids could almost get docked because of something like that?
No, I don't. To be honest with you, no. I mean, I actually had a couple scouts said that they wish Cooper could play junior this year. I mean, it's for some guys, we're talking what you asked me about Cooper, so I'll tell you that. Like, Cooper could have played on our team last year, right, Larry? Like, he's that good of a player. He definitely would have been able to play on our team. So, does that mean that all the players that are draft eligible? Of course not. But ultimately, them getting to play older players, if he makes the league next year, you're going to have to play 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? If anything, it's just going to prepare them. There aren't many players that can make the OHL at 16, but I know that's our goal for him, and that's what we work towards every day. So,
Perfect.
And Cooper and Calem, this is for you, and then Coach can chime in after that. We keep on talking about OHL, but we'll talk about, just before we got on the air, we talked about Ashton Calder over at Lake State, and Jamie, you were with Lake State for a while. Is that ever, Calem, we'll get you to go first. Would that might be an option for you, Calem, instead of junior? Would you consider going the NCAA route?
Yeah, that's probably one of my first goals for sure. I feel like that right now for me as an undrafted player would be better than OHL, but I'm just trying to keep my options open because you never know what's going to happen next year with COVID and everything. So.
And Cooper, not to scare off the scouts for the OHL for your draft, but it's something, is that in the back of your mind that you might want to play NCAA also?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Larry there. Like, getting an education after hockey is the most important thing too. Like, hockey's not just the only part. You got to get an education. You can't play hockey for your whole life. Always got to have a job after. I think that's one of the main things that NCAA offers. So, yeah.
So, sorry, Jay. So I just want to ask something about that because, Hendo, this is one thing that has driven me insane for years. It drives me nuts that kids at the age of 16 or 17 years old need to make hockey decisions that will affect them the rest of their lives. There's countless guys I can think of that could have gotten $150,000 scholarships in the States, played D1 hockey, but didn't do it because they played an exhibition game in the OHL or something like that, right? If a kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, coach, I have this opportunity to play, to potentially make this team at 17 in the OHL, but I also have this scholarship offer, that I have a real potential at getting down the road." How do you, as a coach, kind of navigate that? I think that would be so difficult.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, ultimately, the average age of a commitment is, I think, like 19.6. It's somewhere like it's between 19 and 20. So unless you're like a real blue chipper, like a Tyler Dunbar, where he made his kind of intentions known that he was going to be a college player. Like, I think, Calem said it, best, like, you want to keep your options open. I mean, to me, Cooper is a natural OHL fit. He's such a good, player. I think he'd be ready to jump right in. And I think, Calem, may need, just a different path like we talked about before. But ultimately, if somebody came to me and said, somebody's offered me at Michigan or, whatever, one of these schools, a scholarship at 17, and the OHL's offered me this, I mean, at that point, you just try to help them all. You be supportive. I mean, if you get those two options, I mean, you're a heck of a player. And that's, I'm kind of torn on the college and the OHL route because I have so much spending time with the Lakers and seeing the program and seeing what goes into college athletics, the preparation, the workouts during the week. And you get ramped up. You mentioned football earlier. Like, it feels like a football weekend every weekend in college hockey. Like, yeah. And that year we started off on fire, and then we went on a slide. And when you go, like, you don't win a game all weekend, man, those early week practices, they're tough. And then you don't win again that following weekend, and it's tough. Now you've gone 2 weeks without a win, and you feel like the whole world's caving in on your team. Whereas with the OHL, you're playing a lot of times 3, sometimes 4 games a week. So unless you're a bottom feeder, you're probably not going 2 weeks without losing. So, but ultimately everyone's different. Like, Larry and I talk a lot about college hockey because I think his game suits that style. I think he has a distant cousin who plays, is a really high end player. And so he follows the league. And I think they're both unbelievable opportunities. I mean, if you're getting those options at 17, that means you're a special player and a special young man. So they probably can't go wrong. But colleges they carry 26, 27 players sometimes. So it's not just as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm going to get a D1 scholarship."
Yeah.
There's only so many programs. They're not giving out full ride scholarships to many players. They have to split, I think it's 19 scholarships between the full roster. So the school, we the boys will tell you we emphasize school a lot. I'll be asking like, what are your marks like? Because when I talk to a Coach Witten, I could say, hey, here's Calem, like he's been an awesome player. I think he'd be perfect for your program. Plus he's an 85 student. That helps. I can say, hey, and Adam Barone's an 88 student. It's tough when you're a 60 student and you need all your money in athletic scholarships. When you could throw in the academic side, it really helps, and it shows that you're a committed student athlete and you can handle the rigors of a busy schedule. So there's no right or wrong answer there. At that point, you just become supportive and you just do what you can to help them out. Anyway.
I assume you spend most of your time talking to OHL coaches, but do you talk to university coaches as well, D1 coaches?
Oh yeah. I mean the OHL is it's a daily. Yeah. Actually, today was probably the first time. I don't know if I talked to anybody today. Maybe the first time in a month that I haven't talked to. Sometimes it's as little as 3 or 4 text messages, and sometimes it's literally an entire afternoon being on the phone. It just depends on the day and who we're talking to. I spoke with a bunch of guys last week in advance of our game, and they want to know what's going on, right? Like, how's Cooper doing? How's Lincoln doing? How's this guy doing? And so it's a constant thing. When you're talking about, like, you only get so many picks, you got to make sure you make the right selection. They want to know everything about these guys. And so college is more of trying to reach out. It's not, their schedule is so busy that it'll be easier to get in touch with a lot of those guys as their seasons wind down. So, in a perfect scenario where the border would be open and, if the Lakers season ended, say in 3 or 4 weeks, they would come over and watch. But, I know Coach Witten will be, he'll be tuning into our games for sure. He was actually he was coming to Cap last year, a year ago today, I think, when we got canceled. He was going to make the trip up to Cap. So that's, obviously he knows there's some good players in our league, and it's tough because we're an OHL town. So I hear it all the time. I'm going to defend the program. Everybody says, well, why don't they offer this guy a deal? Why don't they sign this guy? And it's tough because they want guys that really they're 100% all in on college, and we're an OHL town. Most guys want to go to the OHL. So if they offer a spot and they get a guy commit, they want to make sure he's there and he stays there. It's not that, he commits and then a year down the road, the OHL team wants him and then he jumps ship and goes to the OHL, right? So it's a fine line.
And Calem, Cooper, I'll ask you first this time.
Yeah.
You're playing red and white because, again, you can't play anybody else right now. Who do you like to line up against on your own roster on the other side? And who don't you like to line up against, and why?
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here. I definitely like playing against Pishnishki. He's definitely like on the defensive side. He's always on you. You never get any open space. He's always on the top side of you. Who I like playing against? I mean, there's no really right answer there. I mean,
who slapped you yesterday, Coop? That's the guy who doesn't like playing against.
So, and Calem?
I don't really like Sam Lake. I don't know if he's on the call, but he's a little rat sometimes. You get under his skin, but like
we
Steven,
saw
that. Yeah, Cooper's like Steven, so Steven's a good defensive player, so it's hard to play against him for sure.
And
yeah, you say that about Lake because we noticed a little bit of chippiness going on with him and you guys. It was pretty funny to watch, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
And usually, again, most seasons your coach is behind the bench, but coach is sitting on the other side right now, just down from us. Yesterday, out of the whole game so far, not quite quiet. You guys hear him from the stands, or you just don't pay attention to him?
Yeah, I hear him quite a bit.
I only said one thing yesterday. It wasn't any of these guys. Normally, I don't say anything back there, or normally I don't say anything from the stands, obviously. But yesterday I piped up at one time. But it's different. It's different. I like watching, so I can watch kind of both teams from above, and then we'll go in as a staff afterwards and talk about what we like, what we didn't like. And last night we spent over an hour on the Zoom call with some guys watching video and that. So the guys want to get better. I mean, that's the kind of cool thing about this group. And you mentioned earlier, like, it's another thing with the U18. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of motivated players here. There's a lot of guys playing for roles next year. All the 04s, every single 04 we have is looking to play junior hockey next year, right? And so that's I'm pretty sure, anyways. So we have a motivated group. So they understand. Like, sometimes I think, oh, maybe I'm hyping these games up too much, but that's all we got. So it's it is what it is. We had a little, the boys. We had a little 3-on-3 tournament that I should mention in between the last time we were on, that the coaches won. Just to throw that in there, in case any of the boys are watching, that the coaches came back from a miraculous 0-3 record to go on a run and win that. But we're all competitive people, right? So everybody's played and everybody's, we all want to compete. And so, when the guy, it did definitely got a little chippier yesterday, and I would hope for more of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what these guys are do. That's what they've done since they were basically probably Brady's age, is like just play hockey and compete.
And sorry, Jim, I know you're going to go, but Jamie, did you play net on 3-on-3 like you do with Brady, or no?
God no. No, I would stay at home, take 2 strides, steady Eddie back in the DN, shadowing Coop at one point there, a couple good stick checks, but no, it was just we had a good opportunity to have some fun. It's you got to break the monotony of this up a little bit too. So I think we've done a pretty good job of making sure we're getting better, but also making sure that it's fun too, because that's a big part of this as well.
Yeah, I just got a comment, and then I got a question for the boys after. Jamie talked about getting good marks and stuff, and I was talking to a CIS coach one time. He said, he gave me, I thought it was the best explanation of that. He said, when a player has good marks, it's like a funnel, and the top of the funnel, there's so many opportunities. And as the marks get worse, they funnel down, and the opportunities get less and less. And I think we talk a lot about student athletes on here, and I think it's important that we mention, school is student athletes, student first, and then athletes. And so I just wanted to chime in with that. And for the boys, if you could name a couple guys over the years, you don't have to say Hendo because he's here, but a couple of coaches or your parents and stuff that have been big influences on your hockey career and helped you get such a love for hockey. Calem, if you want to go first.
Definitely my dad. He pushed me a lot with just everything, like working out, just everything. He drives me to hockey every day. Like, that's big too. Definitely my first rep coach all the way up till Bantha Mike is Jeff Toms. He was so big. He helped me a lot with just skill. It's getting better every year. Same with Dave Doucette. He was big coach for me too. So, and obviously Hendo too, for sure.
Yeah. And Cooper, same question.
Yeah, definitely my parents. I remember them showing me pictures when I was younger, walking around with skates around my house with tape on them. So I never had my skates off. And definitely my coach, Jamie Greco, when I was young. He always made it fun, always made it enjoyable for us. We always wanted to go to the rink and show up and play. So, yeah.
So, Cooper,
both you guys have older brothers too. Do you think that helped you be a little bit tougher, battling with your older brothers around the house? Calem?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My brother's a little rat too. Also got him skin.
And you too, Cooper?
Yeah, I was at my brother's hockey games, walking around playing mini sticks. It was definitely a good experience. Helped me throughout the years.
Sorry, and Tony, I know you're going to ask a question. I remember one year, Cooper, your brother was on my son's team.
Yeah.
And no matter where he was, the Pee-wee, we were on the road at the hotel. Cooper still had that mini stick in his head, and he wanted to play with the older. He wanted to play with the older kids then too.
Yeah.
So, Calem and Cooper, I'm going to ask you the same question. I was talking to Coach Hendo kind of about the program, and obviously some kids have some difficult decisions to make at a young age. If you're a 17-year-old kid or a 16-year-old kid from the Sioux and you're thinking about going to hockey out of town rather than staying here in town, if you were to offer any piece of advice on why to stay in town, what would you tell them, and what kind of sales pitch would you give them about this team and playing for Coach Henderson? Calem, you can go first.
Well, one big thing thing is Hendo's obviously a good coach. Like he'll put you he'll push you and he'll get you where you want to be if you actually want to be a hockey player. So that's one big thing. And Sioux's also hockey town too. Like there's like the Greyhounds. So like they'll come to your games. You got Lake State. So like it's not like a bad town where there's no hockey. Like it's a hockey town.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty big too.
That's awesome. So Cooper, kid in your situation, potential high draft in the OHL this year, and there's a kid in your situation and he's debating the same thing. What would you tell him, and what can you say? Why stay in Sault Ste. Marie?
Small town. In the dressing room, it's always a family. It's never like in Toronto, let's say for an example, there's kids coming and going every year from out of town, different cities, different switching teams. Here it's been like the same group of kids all the way up. So it's been a good experience being with them through the years. Always been fun times. Yeah.
And Cooper, go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
No. And I was just going to ask Coach Henderson the same question. So what's his sales pitch, and what does he offer? What would he tell a kid?
Yeah, I mean, Cooper could tell you. I had a long talk with him and his family. I guess it was probably about a year, like a little over a year ago now, right, Coop? And Coop had been down south before, and it's one of the things you do at this level is there is a lot of recruiting involved. Without getting into too much detail, there were actually other kids from other communities who wanted to come here this year if they were permitted, quite a few actually. And so I think that's a credit to our program of what we've built the last few years. I mean, ultimately, I think what I hope that comes out in my coaching style, I've said this lots, I'm certainly not a perfect coach by any means, but his passion, I'm very passionate about what I do. I take it very seriously, the privilege and the responsibility really of coaching this group of kids, and every group that we have at this age. It's a big time of their lives, not just to be hockey players. You know what I mean? I'd like to think that we have a great staff that can help them on and off the ice with the trials, the challenges of being a 15. I'm getting older and older and older, and these kids are staying the same age. But we have some young coaches, and just even the last few years, like for them to go to a guy like Mickey Sartz or this year, obviously Joe Miller and Nicholas DeSonia just finished playing a few years ago. Matt Amadio just finished. Like these guys have been through everything. Like a Matt Amadio, for example, like he was drafted but never make the OHL. Like a guy like Larry can go to him and say, like, tell me about CIS hockey. He played 5 years, made national championships with Waterloo. Like, tell me about that path. So Coop can go to a Cole Jarrett and say, tell me what it was like to play in the NHL. Tell me what it was like to play in Europe. Tell me what it was like to go to an OHL finals with Plymouth and be one of the top D-men in the league. So I think we have a little bit of everything, but ultimately I really hope that the kids know how much I care about them on and off the ice, and how much I love the game. I mean, you guys, I think, know this. I love the game. I love helping the kids out. I'm really invested in being a better coach, and that's basically, I don't like to use the word sell. I just think our passion is what separates, I think, our program. And sometimes it's a little bit borderline crazy, you know what I mean? But the way I look at it is like, I will literally do anything. If I believe in a player and they're going to do the right things and be a great teammate and work hard and all that kind of stuff, then the least I can do is take the time to try and help them get to where they want to get to. And, if that means we're watching video after game till 10 o'clock at night, then we'll do it. If it means being on the phone for 6-8 hours a day with OHL guys, we'll do that too. I mean, it does not matter. And so, like I said, we're lucky. We have a really, really good staff. It's not easy. It's not like everybody can make every single day. I wish it was the OHL and this was everybody's job. And ultimately they have families and they have work and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think they know that when the guys are there, they're really committed to being there and helping them out. So, it's been a great group, and these two guys sure make it fun coming to the rink every day.
And Calem, Cooper, I asked this on a lot of the shows when we have, again, the athletes on, and I'll get Coach to say yes or no after you guys answer yours. Calem, I'll get you to go first. Tell us what you think one of your strengths is and what you might need to work on.
My strength is obviously, like, I see the ice well, but like you can't just keep getting better at that. It's just natural. So I feel like I have that ability. So I feel like I have a sneaky good shot too, but I can always get better, obviously. But I'm working on my passing and just trying to be creative with the puck. One of my guys I like to watch is Trevor Zigra. He admires me, so I like watching him. He's a good player to watch too.
And Cooper?
I agree with Larry. One thing I can work on is definitely off ice training, getting stronger, getting my shot better. I think those are definitely two things that you can work on. It's not two things that you're born with or like can't get better with. They're definitely two things that you can improve on easily. One of my strengths, I think, is a hockey sense, looking for open ice, seeing players that other players can't see. And my skating too. I've always had a good stride. Maybe takes a little bit to get going, but once I get going, I think I can use it pretty well.
And Coach, what your thoughts on what they said?
Well, I mean, they're pretty bang on in their self-assessment. We talk about this all the time, so it's not it's not a secret. I mean, starting with, Calem is a very dangerous one-on-one player, and I think, he understands he has to kind of round that out, add some deception to his game and kind of know when to use those one-on-one skills and, when to, protect the little puck a little bit more and kind of play within the team concepts. But, he puts a lot of fear into defensemen. I know if he was coming down on me, I'd probably wonder what he was doing. And that's, you need that in today's game. You need that speed through the neutral zone, that deception with, crossovers and that kind of stuff. And, I think even though he's undersized, he definitely, I said earlier, doesn't play small. Even last year, I mean, playing against older guys, a lot bigger guys. There's some big boys up north there, and he never shied away. So, and then with Coop, I think the number one thing that stands out with Coop is he makes his line mates better, and that's one of the best things you could say about a player. I think that's really what's going to separate him when it comes time to, for a team to call his name. I mean, he can play the 200-foot game as a centerman. He can get up and down the ice. He's in the right spots. He wants to be above pucks. He doesn't go off the offensive side. He doesn't cheat on the defensive side to make sure he gets his numbers on the offensive side. He almost, it looks like on the ice sometimes he gets a little kick out of taking pucks from guys, and you love to see that as a coach. And I know the guys at the higher levels love to see that. And he's a great passer. And I think sometimes he's got to maybe be a little bit more selfish, which is always a good thing. You could always get better at that. And he mentioned his shot, and sometimes playing a little bit with a little more pace, but he sees the ice so well, like if you shut the lights off in the rink, Coop could probably tell you exactly where every single guy is on the ice. And that's one of the things we talk about is kind of painting a picture and knowing where everybody is. And, he's really good at that. So it's, they're both really, really skilled and fun kids, fun guys to coach. They challenge you as a coach because you really want to make sure you're helping them get better. So it's been a lot of fun.
And I got one question for each of you, and then probably we'll let you go. Calem, have you, and we'll use as an example, and Coach says a little bit about size, and I'll refer to and compare you to Lucas Terrio from Sault Ste. Marie. Played midget hockey, then Thunderbirds, and then Ice Dogs, and now he committed to York Lions. Have you talked to Lucas at all? I'm just saying, comparing styles where some people said to Lucas, hey, you're a little too small to play junior or CIS, and to look at where he is now.
Yeah, he's actually my second cousin. I don't know if you guys know that.
I had a feeling
he's my second cousin. Yeah, he's my second cousin.
Shocking in Sault Ste. Marie to be related.
Yeah, my grandma's a Terrio. Like his dad and my grandma are brother and sister. So yeah, we're related. But yeah, I always talk about hockey, and yeah, he just tells me like size doesn't matter. Like when you get to the next level, it's just your work ethic and just keep getting better every day. That's all he says to me. So.
And Coop, you did play for Sun County down south, and I'm saying a lot of history with that organization. And coming back to Sault Ste. Marie, was it a lot of pressure at your age to play down there, or do you feel more comfortable playing here at home?
I mean, it was a big step going there, playing kids from the south, a lot different from the north. I feel like it's two different playing styles. Here it's a lot more gritty, hard work, and down there it's more skill and like just more like team play, like more built structure for the team. So there's definitely different playing down there, but I don't feel like I was struggling or anything down there. And
a little bit different. I'm saying leaving home at that age, was that hard at all?
Oh, my parents made it good for me down there. It wasn't like leaving home. They made it feel like home there, especially the players and the coach down there too. Made it feel pretty good.
And you also had you had another Sue White Dawson down there too, right?
Yeah, he lived with me.
Yeah, so a little bit more familiar. And coach, the last thing, again, I know you say to these guys all the time, but I guess on camera, what advice can you say to these guys before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk a lot. The three of us, whether it's individually or as a group, and I just no different than with really any players. They just love the game. If you love the game, you're going to keep working at it. If you have to, beg somebody to work hard or push them to go work out, I mean, hockey's probably not going to be for them. So it's just, enjoy coming to the rink, enjoy the time with your teammates before practice, after practice, because one day those memories, they'll just be memories. They're not going to be, it's not going to last forever, that kind of stuff. So, just keep trying to get better and just trying to control what we can kind of control, which is, your work ethic every day and being a good teammate and being a good student and all that kind of stuff. And they're both, if you have the desire, and we've seen a ton of guys who don't have even a fraction of the skill of these guys, but their work ethic was so off the charts that they just broke down barriers. They broke down doors and they made it. So, you have two skilled guys like this and a bunch of other guys on our team. And if you can add that with a great work ethic and a great attitude, then they should have some bright futures and opportunities.
So, Jamie, just one last question from me. Sorry. We talked a little bit about Ashton Calder, and I know you have some experience with him. And it's funny because I'm hearing you talk about how kids develop at a different age and how they get better as they go. And, Ashton, I thought he was top 3, but it turns out I think he's about 12th in voting right now. But he's, you have a lot of experience with Ashton. And to see where he's taken his game this year, I believe he's 22, if I'm not mistaken. But just to see him take that next level, and now I'm sure he's going to continue his career going forward. But just a little bit about that, is that an inspirational story that you often can tell these kids about, never give up and things like that?
Well, there's lots of guys. I mean, Tone, there's tons of guys. I mean, I haven't really mentioned Ashton. He committed when I was with the Lakers, so I don't have a ton of experience with him, but it's, okay. There's tons of guys. I mean, I talked to Larry and Coop. Both have skated with our pro skates and OHL skates. Now I got Coop out of school a few Fridays during the fall there, and just a couple times, not that often. But I wanted him to see what the work ethic was like, see what it was going to be like. And Calem was, I mean, the guys this summer were shocked that Calem was not drafted. I mean, he definitely did not shy away at our summer skates. And you're talking about every single guy there is either a professional player, an OHL veteran, or, a high draft pick. And Calem definitely held his own there. So, whether it's the Brett Finleys or the Matt D'Agostino, I mean, there's so many guys here in the Sioux. And I know Calem last year when we were going through the draft, we did Zoom calls with all these guys, Nick Plastino, Zach Turquato, Brett Finley, all these guys, Colin Miller. I mean, Colin played high school hockey, nothing against high school hockey, but there's not a lot of NHLers coming from Sault Ste. Marie high school hockey, obviously. So there's tons of examples here. Ashton's a great example of a guy that's where I think the program is really taking a step over at the Lake State, where they're developing players, and now they see that obviously finishing second this year in the standings is great. And a player like that who uses the 4 years, and that's just a great example of a player using the time, not leaving early, using the 4 years, and then in their senior year, not unlike, being your last year of junior type of thing, or your last year of U18, you can really dominate. And so I'm sure he'll, some guys can just score, and it seems like he's a scorer, but he was not like a blue chip prospect. He was a good prospect for sure. But that's where guys like, Calem or Adam Broen or whatever, like the guys that are maybe overlooked a little bit, can say, I just got to keep getting better. And, next year go play tier 2, maybe in a league where you can get seen a lot by colleges down south. And then you get better and you get better and you get better. And then you just literally knock down the door. You keep knocking on that door until somebody answers. And if they don't, then you go look at the Canadian route. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to be a professional player, I mean, you look at like Owen Hedrick's going to have tons of opportunity to play professionally after his career's done. There's tons of guys that have played professionally after CIS hockey. So there's different paths, different journeys, and these guys are going to have lots of opportunities, I think.
No, that's great. So thanks so much. And you know what, Cooper and Calem, extremely well done. We threw some questions at you. We asked you some tough questions, and both you guys were really well spoken. And you're going to have a lot of people cheering for you guys down the road and throughout your hockey career. So best of luck and congratulations with all you've accomplished. And we look forward to seeing what you guys can do going forward.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Just Coach, I'm going to ask these two, but I know Brady and you are out on the rink every night, and these guys are on the rink at the
Not anymore.
I was just about to say it. Unfortunately, next couple of days it's going to melt. Golf clubs are coming out. Are either one of these two golfers?
I don't know if they're talented enough at hockey to be good golfers too. But Brady, I think I was sadder today because we spent 2.5 hours out there yesterday. Like we were both tired last night, but he said today, he said, it's okay, Dad. We get to jump in muddy puddles now. So that's the perspective of a 3-year-old, right? His dad's sad that we won't be able to. It was a great season for the outdoor, but I'm sure they're good enough, maybe with a couple lessons with Hendo this summer, or if they play professionally one day, we can get some better lessons because even better, they can pay me for them. So that would be even better. Although the guys that are playing professionally right now probably wouldn't pay anything for a lesson. So.
Now, Coach, do you think you could transfer their hockey skills over to the golf course?
There's definitely some things that transfer over for sure. There's a lot of hockey players that are good players. Being athletic and the speed it takes to hit a golf ball a long way, and the strength and the flexibility. So there's definitely some things. But naturally, it's always nice to work with athletes. It's definitely much easier. So football players were not necessarily. I remember giving Mike Vanderjack. Remember Mike Vanderjack?
Oh yeah.
Guys, I remember giving him a lesson in Toronto, and the bigger guy, like he was only a kicker, but the bigger football players, it was not easy giving those guys. When I worked in Toronto, we used to have a lot of the pro athletes come up there, so it was those muscular guys. The tight muscles don't transfer very, very well. Maybe that's why I'm a pretty good golfer because I don't have those big tight muscles. So, but no, hopefully we can get out, maybe have a golf tournament with the team this year and have some fun.
Well, thank you guys, and. If we don't see you before the 21st, thank you for taking time. And if we see you before then, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.
All right.